To begin by setting up our document, I've got my Fox picture on our desktop, and I'm going to go into Illustrator and make a new document. File and New. The size of this one can be a regular tabloid size, but since I want mine to look a little bit different, I'm going to make mine square. Really, I'll leave it up to you as far as the dimensions and the proportions, but for mine, I'm just going to make it 10 by 10. Everything else will remain the same. Just need one artboard. Everything else is good. As far as placing the picture, here's how I want you to do it. Instead of just dragging and dropping the image into the Illustrator file, we're going to go to File and down to Place. From here we can find our image, which is the fox head. Once we have the JPEG selected, I want you to make sure that Link is unchecked and Template is checked on. What this will do is this will make a copy of your JPEG into the actual document. It will no longer link to it. It'll be embedded within it. Additionally, it'll create a new layer, a template layer that we can trace on. From here, we'll hit Place. Give it just a second. And this is what it looks like. Check out how my document is now set up. In my Layers palette, I've got a template layer below Layer 1. Also, the transparency of it has been dropped down by a little bit. This makes it great for tracing off. Even if you check out the layer icon, it no longer has an eye, it's got a little shapes. This means it's made into a template style layer. Right now it is locked off. I'm going to unlock it and rescale it to fit my square size. Since we are working in vector, the size doesn't matter, but I do want it to be large enough to easily work with. And I'll lock it down again. All of my tracing will be done on layer 1. By the way, if you do need to make adjustments to your template layer, you can double click it. This will bring up the options. And from here, you can see that template has been checked off. One of the options I can change up is how dim I want the image to be. Right now it's at 50%. If I needed to see more or less, I could adjust that from there as well. We'll say okay. So all of my tracing is going to be done on the top layer. Initially, here's how I want you to set it up. We're going to be, just like with our last one, I want you to deal with the darkest areas first. I want it to look good as a regular illustration if it was only done in black and white. So the areas that I'm looking for are around the eyes. You can see this is very, very dark for mine. The mouth is a solid shape, the nose, even parts of the ear. The outline of it may be something that you want to do for your illustration. Since mine is nice and fuzzy, so he's got this furry type edge, I want the edge of my illustration to look furry as well. If you've chosen something that has a harder edge, you may elect to do an outline of your object to give it a much more harder, crisper style of edge. But I chose it to be furry for a reason, to emphasize the technique that we're going to be using. I've gone ahead and done the outline for my fox. Got it right here. Give it a second to load. And this is the way he looks like for this one. Again, check out my layers. I've got my layer 1 is where all of my illustration is at. And if I turn off this layer, here's how it looks. When I styled the darker areas, I kind of went with this flamed sharp edge kind of style because it will match the style of my final illustration once it's rendered. From here, we can move on to actually implementing the technique for our project.